And so a good chunk of that was while I was in a touring band, traveling the world, under the guise of being a Christian band, right? So there's just this, man, we could talk about this forever, but there is a industry based around Christianity. We get into it. We start writing songs that, John's songs were very spiritual warfare. And then I take over and start writing songs, and they're very much about my life and my personal experience. So Depravity, I'm writing a lot about the relationships of people I'm meeting on the road, heartbreak, seeing friends change, just, whatever. There wasn't there wasn't a total concept, but the concept of that record was a life of living separate from God because you've you've made your bed and now you're laying in it, kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the getting to the lyric that you asked about on the Marriage of Heaven and Hell, that whole record was, we had been in the industry in the Christian music industry for 4 or 5 years. I'm not exactly sure when that record came out. And we are surrounded all day long, every day, 250 days a year. Our whole entire surrounding is how to market the name of God, is basically the way it felt. You're just in this industry that is selling and peddling the name of the Lord. So that's what that record was about. We just seen a lot of stuff happen throughout those years that we didn't so much agree with, and it was, our opinion at the time. I have different thoughts about it now than I did then, but we were just really angry about seeing the mass marketing and the peddling of Christianity, for whatever that means to people. So that's where those terms, like I think if I were God, we'd all be dead. It's just, that lyric in particular is, I don't have the grace and the mercy to give people, I'm not all forgiving like God is supposed to be. So I wouldn't be able to handle that,
It's like Jesus losing it in the marketplace. Flipping
right.
table.
Yeah. And then, and then just to finish out that conversation, then, the next and last record was called The Life and Death of a Plea for Purging. And that record was just severely personal for me. I had a lot of crazy stuff happen in my life. Both my parents died during that record cycle. My mom took her life. Both my parents were drug addict alcoholics. So a lot of that record is about that, and about this dream that we chased for years, not really ending up being the dream that we thought it was going to be. So I don't know. Everything I wrote about was just about whatever I was at that point in my life. And I just have to be really thankful for the dudes in my band first, Jason at Face Down, and then all of the fans that stuck with us the entire time, that allowed me to be that transparent and that honest. Because being a Christian band, I said a lot of stuff that a lot of Christians might have jumped off ship and went the other direction, because I rode the line of being pretty negative and maybe questionable things that people do or don't believe, but it wasn't for any kind of shock and awe. It was because I was on a journey. I'm still on that same journey of trying to figure out my life and figure out what I believe, and for me to have support and for people to be okay with me going through that and putting it out there on a world stage for people to see, and mostly being accepted by it or for it is really positive and cool.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful thing, man. Just to be able to be that blunt in front of however many people it is. just to say what you mean, because a lot of people are scared to do stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
because
I mean, like, me as a person and us as a band has always been about being honest. I mean, I try not to lie to people. Like in real life, I'm not much of a liar. I like joking. I tell Rachel little fibs sometimes to be funny, but honesty is really, really important to me. So, whatever I'm pushing or selling or whatever, that needs to be pretty clear that it's genuine.
Yeah. And talking about the honesty thing, whenever I saw y'all in Abilene, I was probably 15, anywhere from 14 to 16 years old. Couldn't grow facial hair at the time. And y'all kind of inspired me to have the beard that I have now. I went to the bass player, I forgot his name, told him,
John Wand.
Yes. I was like, you're my idol, dude. And he was just like, no, don't say that. God's your idol. And I was just like, oh, okay. So... yeah, I can see the honesty behind that, and that's really cool. I wish that they could have been here to talk too, but I'm glad to have you here, man. This is like a dream of mine, honestly.
Word, yeah, thanks, man. I'm glad to be on. I get way long-winded when I do these kind of things, and I just end up hearing myself talk, and I'm vain. I just like hearing myself ramble, I think, so... Sorry that it gets so one-sided sometimes.
Oh, no, that's totally fine, because I was worried if I had enough questions written here, and we've already been at this for almost an hour, so we'll go ahead and do my last question. That I was just kind of wondering out of curiosity, because I was listening to Critique of Mind and Thought the other day, and the song Perseverance, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I always...
Perseverance.
Yeah, Perseverance. Yeah, I don't know why I can never say that right. It took me... up until actually probably like 5 years ago to realize that Phil Bozeman is featuring in that song from Whitechapel. Like, I was like, that doesn't really sound like Andy, but I just never really thought about it until I got on Spotify and saw that, or wherever it was that I saw it. And I've always wondered, because a lot of bands I go and see live, just for instance, Whitechapel, Enterprise Earth, these frontmen are 5'2", and I vaguely remember you being a kind of short guy. Is that I've always wondered if that is a secret behind being able to do good vocals. You just got to be tiny, little angry, little tiny.
Man, I don't know. I mean, Phil is tiny and really skinny. I'm like just short and really fat. But I don't know, man. There's dudes like Micah from O Sleeper who's like super tall and beautiful and jacked, or like Tim from As Lay Dying. He's like a big, tall, jacked dude. So I don't know. The short thing probably just comes from maybe short dudes get into screaming because they want to be heard. You're always like the shortest, quietest dude. Everybody's towering over you. I'm just making this up as I go, but everybody's just towering over top of you, and you want to be heard, so you just start yelling.
Makes sense.
Bill is insane. I mean, like, we're nowhere on the same level of, singers or screamers or whatever. That dude, I ride the line of like thinking screaming is a talent, or if it's just something that people do to get in bands that's talentless. I don't know. Like, you could look, because I got into screaming. Oh, dude, listen to that tone of that dude's scream. Like, for me, screaming was you're singing. So this is where I think screaming came from, but I don't know. You're so passionate about something that you can't sing it loud enough that sing has to turn into a scream, right? That's kind of like what I think maybe screaming evolved.
I've always thought the same thing.
Yeah, if it's that, then it's just passion, and you shouldn't be able to critique whether somebody's scream is good or not, because it's just loud passion. But, I mean, in reality, in 2020, like, there are good screamers and bad screamers, but with all that being said, Phil is insane, man. His vocal range is crazy, going super low, super high. Like, I just have a very, like, or had, I can't even scream anymore, really, but, like, just a real mid-range, just yell as loud as I can, and hopefully I don't lose my voice.
And I think that's how, like, listening back on, like, just for instance, early Avenged Sevenfold, M. Shadows, he messed up his voice doing that because I think it was just such a raw, passionate, heartfelt scream. And I think their third album, City of Evil, he doesn't really do that so much anymore because he messed it up doing that. But I always thought that was such an amazing thing because it's like an art now. People go to classes, teach classes, and there's this little older lady that I've seen on the internet that has been teaching people how to scream in like Beartooth and I think even the Devil Wears Prada. But back then, it was just like at Emory, Hawthorne Heights, stuff like that. It was just passion, like you were saying. And I thought that was beautiful because hearing that, it just gives me goosebumps. And you can feel that what they're saying, like where that story came from, you know? And not bashing people who go take the classes and actually use it as a real technique or anything, because that's another realm in itself. But for me personally, I like the raw emotion thing behind it.
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe the lady you're talking about, I'm not sure. It's her name, Melissa, that teaches people.
I can't remember her name all.
In the mid-2000s, there was a lady named Melissa Cross that was putting out a DVD, and she was training all kinds of people on vocal techniques and stuff. And I got her DVDs and tried to like follow along and stuff, but like it just didn't register or make any sense with me. To me, it's just scream as loud as possible and get your point across. And for the most part, as long as you're doing it every day, like when we would tour and we'd go out for 200 days a year, it's like one of those muscles that as long as you're using it, you got it kind of thing. So I would like have a pretty strong voice and I wouldn't really lose my voice or whatever. But every single time we ever recorded a record, I lost my voice multiple times during the session and would have to like sit it out for a couple days and not talk. And so I do believe there's probably some real technique to screaming. I mean, you brought up Beartooth, like Caleb. That's a good example. Like that dude can scream and then sing. Or you got guys like Spencer from Under Oath that can scream and sing. And there's tons of bands like that. Like I would have never been able to do that like the way that I did my thing. I screamed really loud, and plus I'm damn near tone deaf, maybe. But so there's got to be some technique there where you can learn how to do that and not damage your voice. But I just never got that.
And I did some Googling, and it was Melissa Cross that I've seen. And the video I saw, it had those bands on there. So I guess if you can do it, you can do it. But if not, it's just, I guess there's no really real technique behind it. But I'm glad you were able to put out the records you were, because they've helped me through dark times in my life. And it's just awesome. So, and I've had a lot of fun talking to you. We can go ahead and go ahead and start wrapping this up now. If you have anything you want to let the fans at home know.
Cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything crazy to push or promote. I am like in the middle of working on. I've been like, the band ended and I went straight into just being an adult and working a real job. Is that staging stuff I was talking about, but I've realized that I do miss art and creating and talking to people and really making people laugh. That's kind of even before music, that was kind of like the thing that I got into, is trying to be funny. And so I'm in the middle right now of on my Instagram page of like trying to figure out what I want to do. I've been doing a lot of these kind of podcast type things like this, but doing live on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And I've set up a YouTube page, but I haven't actually started releasing content on there. I want to figure it out and get it right. But My Instagram page is a plea for Andy, and my YouTube page is gonna be